Are the Maryland Terrapins a top 4 team in the Big Ten?
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you for making us part of your day. And this episode of Locked On Terps is brought to you by eBay Motors. A championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. So for parts that fit, head to eBay Motors and look for green check. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customer. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. It is time to say the Terps are a top 4 team in the Big Ten. On 3 finally gives Maryland their respect as they rank the Terps the 5th best team in the Big Ten. Last Wednesday, if you remember last week, if you're tuning in, the Terps got ranked as the 8th best team in the Big Ten, and I had a problem with it. Wisconsin was above us. Rutgers was above us. I want to say Illinois was above us. There's a bunch of teams that were above us that absolutely should not have been above us, but the Terps are absolutely getting their respect as they shot up the rankings from 8 to 5 on the On3 Big Ten rankings. I love doing this episode kind of on Wednesday to see where we're at in the middle of the week in terms of the Big Ten ranking and compared to the rest of the conference. But right now they have us at 5, and the current rankings are Michigan at 1, Penn State at 2, Ohio State at 3, Wisconsin at 4, and then the Terps at 5. You could kind of argue the top 3 however you want it, whether you want Penn State at 1 or Ohio State at 2 or Ohio State at 1. However you want to do the top 3, you could kind of argue for any team, but I do agree with the order they currently have it with. But Wisconsin, I'm going to say we should be in the top 4, and we should be in front of Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a really good team. Don't get me wrong. They have a lot of good players. They have a really good run game. I watched a little bit of their game last week, and they have one loss. That's my main reason for saying that we should be in front of them. But Wisconsin, they've beaten Buffalo. They did lose to Washington State, but Washington State is a top 20 team in the country, so you can't really fault that against them. They beat Georgia Southern, and they just beat Purdue. But honestly, 3-1 to 4-0 this early on, I feel like you have to give the Maryland Terrapins the edge a little bit. I mean, you could argue either way, but I'm arguing for our Maryland Terrapins. Here are kind of the points that I think that we should be at 4 instead of Wisconsin. It starts with the most important position. If you have a good quarterback, you have a good team, and Maryland has a good quarterback. It starts with Tagovailoa. I like our quarterback a lot better, and usually in college football, it's a little bit different, but in NFL, you can look at 2 teams, and if you pick the better quarterback, a lot of the times, more than not, you have the better team. And in college football, it is similar in that kind of way in a lot of ways, but the rest of the roster does matter a lot still. But I do think our quarterback is better than theirs. Talia is first in the conference with 1,122 yards. And while Tanner Mordecai has only thrown for 876 yards, Tanner's a good player, though, dual threat quarterback. He's a really good player. I'm not going to lie, but Talia is the best ever in Maryland history. I like our quarterback better than Wisconsin. Talia has 8 touchdowns, 3 picks, which is first in the conference, ahead of Drew Aller, ahead of J.J. McCarthy, ahead of all those guys. The Maryland Terrapins quarterback, Talia Tagovailoa, is first in yards, and he's first in touchdown passes at 8, while Tanner has 2 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. I don't know what to do with that. I think that's part of the reason why they couldn't beat a Washington State is because Tanner hasn't played particularly well. 2 touchdowns to 3 interceptions in 4 games. I just like our quarterback a lot better, and that goes a long way. I mean, that's a huge percentage of it is me liking our quarterback a lot better. They have a really good running back in Braylon Allen, one of the best in the country. But I think Roman Hemby compares. And if you look at Mel Kiper's board, I love to make this point, but if you do look at Mel Kiper's board, Roman Hemby is the second running back on that board, and Braylon Allen's behind Roman Hemby. So that might be more for what translates better to the NFL. But Braylon Allen is a beast, and I'm not gonna say that he's better or that Roman Hemi's better than him, but I think it compares well. And I like our wide receiver room a lot better. And I think our defense has improved. Wisconsin has a pretty good defense, but I think our defense has improved a lot. And I think our defense compares with them. So I think it really comes down to quarterback and coaching. And I like their coach. Their coach is a really good guy. He's transferred that Cincinnati program. Their coach is a really overall a good coach. There's a reason he got that Wisconsin job, but I think Coach Locksley's excellent too. I think we're pretty similar to Wisconsin, but I give us the edge mainly because of that quarterback position and the skill guys that we have outside. But I would say their offensive line is better. So you could go either way, but I'm arguing for the Maryland Terrapins to be at that number 4 spot right now. And other websites do. I continue to talk about the On3 ranking, but other websites do because I use On3 because it's a really valuable source. They're one of the leaders in recruiting and college football overall. So they do a really good job. They have a lot of expertise in that area and a lot of experts in there and a lot of really good analysts. But the Star Tribune has us at 4 above Wisconsin. So it's a legit debate for either one. But right now, being a top 4 team in the Big Ten, top 5 team in the Big Ten, that should not be taken for granted. That's not something that is just normal. The Big Ten is one of the best conferences in college football. A lot of people would say it's the second best behind the SEC. I mean, this year the Pac-12 is amazing with Penix at Washington and Caleb Williams at USC and Oregon State and Washington State. Oregon just crushed Colorado, and Colorado's also in there. The Pac-12 is absolutely stacked, but a lot of people would say year in and year out, the Big Ten is the second best conference. Obviously, the SEC is the king, and the SEC is probably still the king, but people argue for the Big Ten, and people might this year say that the Big Ten East, there's not a harder division in football than the Big Ten East, where Maryland plays, Penn State, Ohio State, and all those people. So being a top 4 team, and not only the Big Ten, but the Big Ten East, is a big deal for me. It's a big deal for Coach Locksley. It's a big deal for those players. It's a big deal for the program overall, and it shows where we're at. That's impressive for us to be in the top 4 or 5 teams in the Big Ten. That's not something that is normal. That's not something that we have done. There's a ton of teams behind us, but nobody at the end of the day can tell me those teams behind us are better than us right now. Nobody can tell me that Iowa's better than us. I know Iowa is just ranked. I wasn't having it last week. I said we're better than Iowa, and I think that kind of showed up against when Iowa played Penn State. The funny thing about it is Iowa lost to Penn State 31-0, which was absolutely the same score that Maryland lost to Penn State against last year. But Iowa can't score. Maryland's not losing 31-0 to Penn State this year. We're putting up some points against Penn State. So Iowa cannot score overall, and I think we're a better overall team than Iowa right now. They have a good defense, but I take us over Iowa for sure. Cade McNamara went 5 for 14 for 42 yards. Tilly is not doing that even against a Penn State team. Nobody will argue Rutgers anymore after they just got blown out by Michigan. I don't know why Rutgers was above us. I couldn't really believe that. I couldn't understand that. It kind of made me mad. But despite their 3-0 start, you got to be able to kind of read through that. It's Rutgers. We're the better program than them. So overall, we're standing really well in Nebraska, Illinois, Indiana, Northwestern, Michigan State. All those teams are comfortably behind us, and the statistics show us as a top 5 team in offense right now. According to ESPN, we're actually the number 1 team in the Big Ten in offensive stats. A lot of that, I'm not going to sit here and lie. A lot of that is the fact that we haven't played very much. We played Towson, we played Charlotte, we played Virginia, and we played Michigan State. So I'm not going to take huge stock into that. But at the end of the day, we're the number 1 offensive team in the Big 10. And then I think it really speaks to what Coach Locksley has done overall in transforming. And it was great to see it actually show up in Big Ten play against Michigan State, because we hadn't seen the Big Ten play, and I wasn't 100% sure how it's going to go. It's the Big Ten. It's tough. Big Ten, run game, offensive line. You don't know how games are going to go in the Big Ten, in the toughest league, along with the SEC in the country. And it showed up against Michigan State on the road in East Lansing. So Coach Locksley has really flipped this place, like what I was saying. He's recruited better. He's developed players. He's coached well, and he's turned us into an upper echelon team in the Big Ten. And no Maryland fan should take that for granted. What did we learn from Coach Locksley's press conference? He had some interesting things to say. I'll tell you about that after this ad from DoorDash. Missing the syrup for your pancakes or just ran out of your favorite coffee creamer? With DoorDash grocery delivery, you can get what you want right when you need it. You've trusted DoorDash to deliver your restaurant favorites, and now you can get grocery delivery that actually delivers too. With thousands of grocery stores to choose from, you'll find the best in your neighborhood and boost your local economy with each and every order. You'll get exactly what you ordered, or we'll get it right. So sit back, enjoy quality grocery just like you picked them yourself. Get 15% off your first DoorDash order, up to $20 value when you use Locked On College at checkout. Limited time offers. Terms apply. What did we learn from Coach Locksley's press conference? There was some important nuggets in there, some really important things. Let's start it off with Coach Locksley is not satisfied with the Terrapins' play. I think that's exactly what the Terps need. Yes, the Terrapins are 4-0. Yes, Maryland leads the country in turnovers per game. Yes, Talia leads the Big Ten in passing yards. But Coach Locksley is not satisfied at all. And I think that's what we need. This is what he said. I want to read his quote. The last 2 weeks, we haven't started out. We got down 14, and we found ways to overcome those deficits, and we finished the winning in the fourth quarter. We finished scoring touchdowns in the red area. We executed the last 3 quarters about as well as you can execute. This time, we started out fast, and we had 3 red zone trips on offense where we didn't score points. We throw an interception in the red zone area. We missed a couple of field goals. And so to me, that's what I'm talking about. That's exactly the energy I think the Maryland Terrapins need to have. We are not where we want to be as a program. We are not satisfied. We're 4-0. We have a chance to go to 5-0 for the first time since 2001. The first time since 2001. It's been 20 years. We have a chance to do that this weekend against Indiana on Saturday at 3:30. But there are things to clean up. There are things we have to get better. And if we want to get to 9 wins, if we want to get to maybe a 10-win season, which would absolutely be outstanding for Coach Locksley, which would be outstanding for the program, there's nothing we don't need to take anything lightly. We don't need to be satisfied at all. And I love the energy that brings, because I'm tired of the slow starts or ending slow. I'm tired of not putting 4 quarters against a UVA or against a Charlotte together. Those teams aren't that good. We should be able to put up 3.5 quarters of really good plays. We shouldn't have to go down 14-0, or we shouldn't end the game horribly, and not horribly, but not end the game against Michigan State. I'm tired of our run game not working at all. I'm tired of Roman Hemby getting stuffed. I'm tired overall of Jaquan Shepard giving up big plays, even though that hasn't happened in a while. I'm tired of small things happening, because I know at the end of the day, we are talented. We are very good. But when we play some of the big dogs coming up in Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, we're going to focus on Indiana. Even Indiana. Indiana is a solid Big Ten team. Let's not overlook them. Let's not be satisfied. They can do some things against us. But overall, I know that those things aren't going to hold up when we play those teams. We're not going to be able to do those things. And we're not going to be able to beat teams like that with not being able to run the ball with a slow start. If we go down 14-0 against Ohio State, game might be over. Or against Penn State, if we start pretty even with them and it's 14-13, but we end the game slow, we're not going to win the game. That's how it is at the end of the day. And if we want to have a chance at taking down one of the big 3, then that's exactly what we have to do. The defense ranks first in turnover margin in the whole country, not in the Big Ten, in the whole country. Points allowed per game, we're doing really well. At 14, we're top 15 in the country in that. But this is what Coach Locksley said. He isn't satisfied with the defense either, and I'm not either. Saying we're done a really good job on defense of keeping people out of the end zone, of the things we need to do better at. No doubt about it. And our defensive staff will work hard to get it done. So there's still things we need to work on. It's bend but don't break mentality right now. Michigan State bent us a little bit. They bent our metal a little bit. They were able to get down the field a little bit. They were able to move the ball a little bit. I'm not going to say they burned our defense, but they were able to. But the 4 turnovers that we forced and the leading turnover margin, it's not going to stay at that way for the rest of the season. I mean, maybe it will. Who knows? But I doubt it. If I had a guess, if there's probability to it, it's almost definite to come down. So we can't play always this bend but don't break and force 3 interceptions or get a fumble knockout, because that's not always going to happen against some of the better teams. It's not going to even happen against an Indiana probably. I doubt we forced 4 turnovers against Indiana. I doubt it happened, and that's why Coach Locksley isn't satisfied yet, because he knows with the upcoming schedule, there's no reason to be satisfied with how the defense has played or how the offense has played. It's been good. He gives us its flour. He gives it its props. It's played well, both sides of the ball, but we got a lot of work to do. And then I want to talk about Glendon Miller a little bit. I talked about him. I gave him the defensive MVP. Coach Locksley praised Glendon Miller, saying, "I am proud of him because I will tell you back, Glendon has been a pain in my butt for 3 years in terms of he loves football, but it's just all the other things in life. You know what? He's matured in this program." And I agree with him about Glendon Miller. He steps right in. Bo Braid out at safety. He steps right in at safety. He plays the slot cornerback. He can play basically anywhere in our defense, I'm sure, and he can step up and do it well. He's 6'4" and long, and he's a big part of why we started the season. He had an insane interception against Michigan State, but I think Glendon Miller has grown up. I think he's played really well this year, and I think he's put himself in position to end the year really well. I'm not sure quite what that means. I don't know if that means NFL. I don't know what it means exactly, but Glendon Miller has put himself to get himself on the map so far. He's made a couple of really good plays and really big plays, and we're going to need him the rest of the season in that secondary. I mean, he was the biggest question mark coming into the year. In the secondary, we looked at our cornerback room, and we looked at on the other side. One side we have Tarheeb Still. On the other side we have Jaquan Shepard. We were pretty confident in that, but we were unsure about the nickel position. But Glendon Miller has came in and played really well, so I think Coach Locksley's right. I think he's matured. And then Locksley also talked about starting 5-0, which I talked about. It's the first time since 2001, guys, that we have the chance to start 5-0. It's been a long time for the Maryland Terrapins, and there is a change in the program. You can see it. You can see the change. When you read a stat, and it's like the first time since 2001 that we get to start 5-0, and I know it's been the easy part of the schedule. I know that, but 5-0 is 5-0, and starting that type of way, having a chance to be ranked in the top 25, going into the Ohio State game at 5-0, and having that energy, big noon kickoff is going to be at the Ohio State Maryland game. Having the whole country watch us play Ohio State brings recognition to the program. It helps with recruiting. It helps overall with just bringing fame to the program that Maryland Terrapins need, filling up the seats in the shell. There's a change in the Maryland Terrapins fan, and it starts with Coach Locksley. It starts with that whole coaching staff, and then I'd say it's Leah, and then it's the rest of the team. But there's a change in the Maryland Terrapins program that is awesome to see, and Coach Locksley kind of talked about that with us having a chance of being 5-0 for the first time since 2001. And Terps have arrived, and they have an opportunity to show something. We haven't been able to get into some Terps in the NFL. If you guys are curious what and how the Maryland Terrapins are doing in the NFL, I'll tell you after this ad from Jase Medical and a message from Locked On. College football season is here, and this season Locked On is kicking up your coverage with Locked On College Football Kickoff Live. Each Friday, Locked On go live from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On College YouTube channel. College Football Kickoff Live will cover playoff implications, the conference rivalry games, and go in depth like only Locked On can, including insight and analysis from our stable of Locked On College hosts covering their team every day. Find Locked On College Football Kickoff Live every Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on any Locked On College YouTube channel. You won't want to miss it. Everyone should be empowered to take care of themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jase Medical offers the Jase Case. The Jase Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you a peace of mind so that you are not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jase Medical makes sure you have medication in hand. Jase Medical is simple. They handle everything from online evaluation to a licensed pharmacy, medication delivery, and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get prepared. Save more than $360 by getting those life-saving antibiotics with Jase Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using Locked On at checkout on jasemedical.com. That's jasemedical.com, promo code Locked On. Let's get into some Terps in the NFL. Let's start with the first round pick of the Giants last year and Deonte Banks. I watched the Thursday night football game against the 49ers where the Giants kind of got crushed, but Deonte Banks looks up to par and he's living up to that first round pick. He was targeted 5 times and only gave up 22 yards, which is very good and solid for a rookie cornerback. And the broadcast team, the Thursday night team, talked about him a little bit, and Deonte Banks is off to a really good start. He's showing up. DJ Moore is having a little bit of trouble in Chicago. I thought the Bears would be better with DJ Moore, but Fields hasn't found the talented wide receiver a lot. He had 11 receptions for 170 yards on the team for the former Terp and had a touchdown against the Chiefs. So it's definitely solid, but you want that production to go up for a player like DJ Moore. Jacorian Bennett, I watched him Sunday night against the Raider. Had flashes, but also had some mistakes. Made a really good breakup play, but also had a bad penalty. But he is starting, and the Maryland Terrapins have both their starting cornerbacks starting in the NFL, which is pretty amazing. I don't know how many teams can say that from last year. I don't know if any college team can say that they have both corners from their last year team starting in the NFL for NFL teams. I don't know if anyone else in college football can say that. It's a pretty amazing line to be able to say. But the commentator on Sunday night talked about Bennett's makeup speed and praised Jacorian Bennett a lot, but he still has to improve a little bit, but that's what you expect from a rookie quarterback. Stephon Diggs, former Terp, of course, everyone knows about Diggs. He's doing what Stephon Diggs does. 3 games, 25 receptions for 279 yards, and he's still great. And it's good to see after some of those question marks in the offseason from Stephon Diggs. It's great to see him putting together a really good season. Darnell Savage, the safety for the Packers, if you remember him, he was a Terp. And he was a first-round pick. A lot of people had high expectations. It has been up and down, but he had 7 tackles this week against the Saints. It might be have a really good year for Darnell Savage. And a quote from his coach is he's really taken a step this year as far as a leadership role. So I guess he's become a leader. I guess he's grown in that leadership role. But overall, Darnell Savage has been a really good player overall. And then to some kind of bad, J.C. Jackson, after that really good season that he had a couple years ago, it's been hard. He's been injured, and now he's a healthy scratch for the Chargers. So he struggled the sense in having one really good season, but hopefully he can get back. I have trust in J.C. Jackson. He had a season where he was one of the best cornerbacks in football, and it's hard to stay consistent there at the cornerback position, but I hope he is able to get back to playing at the level that he was. And then Chad Ryland went 50% against the Jets, the Maryland's former kicker. Hopefully that number can improve. I'm not really concerned. Bill Belichick seems to be okay with it and thinks he's going to be okay. So hopefully he gets better for the Patriots. They did take a pretty high round pick on him. And then Rakim Jarrett had no catches Monday night, but did have a catch in the game before for 7 yards. So maybe he gets more involved. We'll see what happens. But overall, that's what's going on with some former Terps. But thanks for listening today. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Tomorrow's a crossover show with Locked On Indiana, so look out for that. But like and subscribe, and thank you for listening to Locked On Terps.